So I imagine if you're anything like me, you've been opening Instagram every day for the past 2 weeks, wondering whether or not Bryson DeChambeau is going to make a hole-in-one as he hits the ball over his house to the green in his backyard. This challenge that Bryson started truly has gone viral and had golfers and non-golfers alike asking whether or not he could do it. And on day 16, shot number 134, we finally got the answer we'd been waiting for as Bryson holed out his wedge shot and went absolutely nuts. This challenge has grabbed the attention of millions of golfers. And I think there's 3 really key lessons that you can learn from this challenge that will help every single golfer watching this, regardless of your level. Some of them you may have seen already, others are slightly more hidden. I want to share those lessons with you today and help you to play better golf. So the most obvious part of the challenge that I can't replicate here would be the fact that he's hitting over a glass house. That in itself creates a level of jeopardy that for most of us would put the fear of God into us, because most people can't control their contact on the club face well enough to guarantee that they're not going to scull the ball straight into the glass. So the piece there that matters is contact. You need to make centered contact. Hit the ball in the center of the club face and hit the ball high enough up on the club face to guarantee you're going to get the loft and the launch you need to get the ball over the house. That would be most people's number one concern, let alone trying to hole the ball on the other side. Just getting the ball over the house successfully would be most people's concern. And in order to be able to do that, we need to be able to control the low point of our swing, the point on the ground where this club makes contact. And for most golfers, that varies far too much. It's far too fleeting, far too inconsistent. In fact, the inconsistency that you discuss and describe in your own golf swing that you recognize as being a problem is really an inconsistent low point. The view that you saw Bryson swing from throughout the entire challenge was always this down the line view. Now, there's some value in looking at the swing from this view. You'll see how Bryson's swing conformed quite nicely to the swing plane and the swing geometry. That was a subject we spoke about as recently as last week's video. But we never get to see Bryson's video or Bryson's swing from the front view. And that's key, because it's the front view, or more accurately, the rear view that I'm going to share with you today, that really tells the story about what you could take from this video in order to improve your golf. And what you don't get to see from this front view is the fact that Bryson's swing, and all good golf swings, have zero shift off the ball. There's no weight shift or moving off the golf ball in the backswing. If you do that, that tends to cause issues with controlling the low point. If you take a look at Bryson's swing from the front view, you'll see how there's no movement away from the target. He keeps his weight very centered, and he even starts to move it slightly towards the target during his backswing. That's a move you'll see a lot of good golfers making. If I show you that view from the down the line camera and just turn so that my back is facing the camera, I want you to take note here of how the center line in my pelvis actually moves towards the target in a good backswing. Bryson's also demonstrating that exact same movement of his pelvis during the backswing. That's a golfer not shifting away from the target in the backswing. That's a golfer who, if anything, is shifting their pelvis and their mass slightly towards the target in the backswing. And that's a tremendously valuable lesson that every single one of you watching this video could learn. Move your trail hip back and behind you. Right hip goes back and behind you during the backswing. That controls the weight movement in the lower body and helps to ensure that you have your weight far enough forward at impact in order to control contact. So lesson number 1, improve your contact via zero weight shift. It's the way all great golfers do it, and it's the way that Bryson does it as well. So it should be crystal clear to you that the skill you need to improve is the skill of low point control. Bryson has that skill on 100% lockdown, meaning he never thinks he's going to hit the ball into his house. How confident are you that you can control the bottom of your swing? If you want to work on that skill, there's great training aids that you can buy that help you to see where your club bottoms out. I would say one of the biggest problems golfers have in terms of training this skill is they don't see where the club bottoms out, and that's because most of us are practicing from an artificial grass or mat, and that means we can't really see where the club bottoms out. If you're fortunate enough to practice from the grass, you're more likely to be able to see that contact point on the ground. But as I say, most of us are practicing in an environment where we have to hit from an artificial surface, meaning we can't see where the club bottoms out. The board I have on the ground here is called the divot board, and it's a board that's designed to help you see where your club bottoms out. This training aid has these sequins on it which change colour as you strike the mat. You'll see here from that small little practice swing I made that I was able to strike the mat at exactly the point of the ball, and then the divot was after the ball. That's exactly what you'd want to look for. You'd want to hit behind this ball as few times as possible, ideally 0. And you'd want to get the location of this low point to be at or just after the ball as often as possible. How often would you be successful if you tried to do this drill? How many times could you hit the ground in the same place? Once, twice, 5 times? The number of times that you could successfully repeat this drill and hit the ground in the same place will determine to a large extent how good of a golfer you can be. And if you want to hit the ground in the same place over and over again, I would recommend no shifting away from the target in the backswing. Learn a backswing where this trail hip moves up, back and behind you to keep your weight forward and make it more likely that you strike this mat in the right place. If you struggle with contact, keeping your weight further forwards is something I would strongly advise. Using some form of feedback when you practice is key, helping you to see where this club hits the ground. Once again, exactly the right place. 100% control over the low point means I know the contact is going to be good. And if the contact is good, you can start to learn the second lesson from Bryson's video, which is distance control. He was hitting the balls almost exactly the same distance within reason every single time. Now, he's only hitting a wedge. I appreciate that the best players in the world hitting a wedge over and over again are quite likely to hit the ball a very similar distance. You would expect that. But a huge part of why the ball flies a similar distance is because he has the low point on lockdown. He's hitting the center of the face every single time, and therefore the expectation for how far the ball is going to go is much easier to predict. If you're mishitting the ball, particularly with a wedge, you'll find that it may fly 100 yards, but equally if you hit behind the ball, it may only fly 60. And then if you blade one or hit one thin, it may go 120. That enormous range in potential distance or possible distance for your wedge shots really makes it difficult for you to know what's going to happen, and therefore makes it difficult for you to know how to score. Getting the low point on lockdown means that your distance control will go through the roof. And if your ability to control distance is improved, your ability to hit the ball closer to the flag improves as well, and that directly influences your score. So learn from the fact that Bryson's trying to hit this wedge the same distance every single time. He's not trying to hit this club as far as he possibly can. There's a huge lesson there for so many of you that are trying to hit the ball as far as you can with every club, instead of maybe taking a little bit of power out for all the clubs in your bag and getting better at hitting each club a more consistent distance. So consistent distance is what we're striving for with each club. After all, it's why we have 14 different clubs in the bag. They're all designed to go a different distance. So controlling the distance you hit the ball and hitting the ball a more consistent distance starts with getting the low point skill on lockdown. Hitting the ball first and the ground second is the best lesson you could ever learn. And in order to make sure that's more likely to happen, learn to make a backswing where you don't shift off the ball at all. There's really no better exercise for you to practice in terms of controlling the strike. Good quality contact equals predictable distance. You can see there, I've hit that ball again, pretty solid, ball first, divot board second. That's exactly what we'd want to see. If you have the luxury of being able to practice from the grass, This exercise becomes extremely easy to do. You can just scratch a line in the turf or even spray a line onto the grass so that you can see exactly where your club's bottoming out relative to where you're trying to hit the ground. If you practice from the sand, there's a bunker drill you can do here, which in my mind is probably the best way to train this skill. It's a drill that Bryson, funnily enough, covered in a video that he made with Rick Shields some months back, where he was trying to help Rick with his golf. He was trying to show him how important this skill of low point control was, and he did an expert demonstration on how to control the bottom of the swing arc.
Take the ball away and start creating divots in front. So I want you to do a couple more of these. Really drive that arm. Too late? Nope. Get yourself a better feeling of where to end up the sand. Too behind. Better there. It just shows the sensitivity, how sensitive you are to this. And if you could find a way to be less sensitive with this, man, you're on your way to better golf. If you can hit that line every single time, I want you to just for 1 second, just for fun, I want you to see how many times I actually, on 10 swings, hit the line. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
That's pretty impressive.
6.
Wow.
7, 8, 9.
Jesus.
Didn't miss it once.
I'll give you one more.
So there's an immaculate demonstration from Bryson once again in terms of controlling the low point of his swing. That's why he stood there for 16 days straight and wasn't worried once about hitting the ball into his glass house. You would probably be different because you do not have this skill on lockdown. Please don't overlook the importance of this skill just because it looks fairly simple. It really isn't as easy to do as it looks, and you'd be surprised if you start to try this exercise and if you get to see where your club really bottoms out, how varied the low point of your swing might be. Once again, learning to control the low point helps us to predict the contact, and it helps us to predict the distance. Those are the two lessons that I want you to take from Bryson's challenge so far. As we continue to move through, the other thing that I would get you to take from the lesson is the fact that block practice or hitting the same shot over and over and over again can really help you to develop your skills. So many people are changing club when they practice. They're told that they really shouldn't just be hitting the same shot over and over again. And while there's undoubtedly some value in randomizing your practice at some level, trying to recreate some course setups and situations, most of you would benefit tremendously from sticking to one club and trying to make the same swing on lockdown and repeat. If you can get this thing so dialed in that it goes pretty much the same distance every time you hit it, that confidence will come with you to the golf course. You'll be able to repeat that swing when you need it. So depending on your skill level, this final piece in terms of block practice versus random practice will differ slightly from player to player. But what I wanted to show you was the value of hitting the same club and the same shot over and over and over again to train strong mechanics. At the end of the day, your mechanics and your technique is what you take with you to the course. If it's good enough, it'll stand up under pressure. If it consistently lets you down when you get to the golf course, it's really just a sign that the mechanics and the technique of your swing are not strong enough. They need to be trained more. Therefore, block practice and focusing on a skill like controlling the low point is going to directly benefit your game. You're going to see a direct influence in terms of a positive effect on your game if you get better at controlling the bottom of your swing. Concentrating on hitting the ball first and the ground second has led to me being able to demonstrate fairly solid, reliable distance here as far as how far these wedge shots are going. I was trying to recreate a similar distance to the shot that Bryson was hitting over the past 16 days. I'm using my wedge, and I'm hitting the ball fairly centered each time, and I'm getting the feedback from the divot board that I'm doing a pretty good job of getting that low point on lockdown. One more time, I want to show you why this is important and how you can train this yourself. There are so many examples of great players moving that trail hip, back behind them in the backswing. We'll do that rear view one more time, and you get to see this, as well as I'll pull up some examples of other great players demonstrating the same thing. If we took the center of my pelvis as the midline, I'm going to turn my right hip, my back hip here, towards the midline. I'm going to allow my knees to change flex. I'm going to turn my hips, and my sacrum, or the bottom of my spine here, is actually going to move towards the target. That may surprise a lot of you to think that that's how the pelvis moves. A lot of you will have been told the exact opposite. You'll have been told to shift your weight away from the target. But I promise you that's having a direct negative impact on your ability to control low point. We spent the video today explaining to you how important controlling low point is. The success or failure of Bryson's challenge was in part very much linked to his ability to control contact. If you want to improve your golf, getting better at controlling your low point will help you to do that. And moving your pelvis in the way that I've described today will be a big step in helping you to be successful. So there is the hidden lesson in Bryson's hole-in-one challenge for you to take away. Better low point control, more secure contact via a pelvis movement towards the target in the backswing. That's something that many of you will never have thought about and certainly never tried. I want you to give that a go and let me know how you get on down in the comments. If you have a divot board or you train your low point control on the grass, how many times in a row can you successfully hit after the line or hit the divot board after the ball? Can you do 2 in a row, 5 in a row, 10 in a row? The larger that number becomes, the better golfer you will become. So work on that skill this winter and watch your golf improve next year. If you practice indoors or from an artificial mat, then having some sort of feedback as to where your club hits the ground can be extremely valuable when you're trying to improve the skill of low point control. Assessing how good you are at hitting the mat in the right place can make the task of improving your low point control that much easier. If you're interested in learning more about the divot board training aid tool, I'll put a link down in the description, and there's also a discount code if you choose to make a purchase. I hope you enjoyed my take on the Bryson hole-in-one challenge. It was important for me to try and extract some value from that you could use in your own game. Seeing how the best players control their low point with 100% accuracy is something that you can really learn and benefit from. If you did enjoy the video, I'd love you to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if you're new. I've loved the content that Bryson's been putting out over recent months with his Break 50 challenge and now this hole-in-one challenge. I'm excited to see what else he's going to do in 2025. If you'd like 2025 to be your best golfing year ever, then now is the time to start thinking about that. If you'd like to work with me either in person or online, I'll put some options down in the description of this video that you can check out. There's plenty of people working with me all over the world and playing the best golf of their life. If that's something you're interested in, then make sure you send me a message. The main topic of this video was how to move the pelvis towards the target in the backswing in order to improve low point control. I made a longer, more detailed video about this exact subject some months ago, and I'd really encourage you to go and check that out. You can click the link here to learn more about this master move in the golf swing.